Part 35. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 345. Goose Manor. It's strange. It's been a few hours and it's almost time for dinner. Why hasn't the boss released the dungeon yet? 1 minute in reality and 1 day in the dungeon. How many minutes has it been? After finishing the meal, the fat man clasped his hands. Counting on his fingers, he finally took out his cell phone and used the computer software inside to calculate the time. Chin-Chi looked down at the little panda and said softly, "The time passage of professional dungeons does not follow this pattern. The big fish may not come out too early." Ah! What does this mean? The fat man was stunned. He scratched his head, very puzzled. So far, the proportion of time elapsed between professional dungeons and the real world has no rules. Gucci walked in from outside the door and said in a calm tone, "Some may be 10 minutes in reality, 1 week in dungeon, and some may be 10 in reality. Minutes, 1 minute in the copy, maybe the time passage in some reality and the copy are the same." After hearing this, the fat man said with a horrified look on his face, if time passes too fast in reality, then when the big boss comes back, won't several years have passed in the real world? It's not that serious. Currently, Scene knows that the time-lapse ratio is polarized. 1 is 10 minutes in reality and 100 days in the copy. The other is 10 minutes in reality and 1 minute in the copy. Therefore, there are no examples of cases where only 1 day has passed in the dungeon, but 1 year, or even 10 years have passed in reality. If a player really enters this kind of dungeon, perhaps the result of dying at the beginning and quickly getting out of the dungeon is better than the result of struggling in the dungeon for a long time and finally successfully completing the level. "Are you here just to interrupt?" Chin-Chi turned to glance at Gucci. Gucci glanced at Chin-Chi's panel. It was still open and not closed. Seeing this, a hint of secret regret flashed in Gucci's eyes. "I found a male caregiver, he should be here today." Nursing worker, the fat man was stunned for a moment, then came to his senses and nodded repeatedly, "That's good. I can take care of Brother Chin with him." Chin-Chi turned his head and stared at the red panda without saying a word. Gucci walked over, sat casually by the bed, and asked, "Don't like it? Then I should quit him." Chin-Chi shook his head, his expression paused, and he said in a muffled voice, "Thank you." Chin-Chi didn't want to trouble anyone, but now, he had to. Usually, the fat man mainly takes care of himself. If there is one more person, he can also share the burden. Gucci raised his hand and tentatively touched the head of the little panda in Chin-Chi's arms. Seeing that the latter showed no resistance as before, he lowered his voice and said, "It will be fine, I promise, I will help you stand up again. You don't have to say." Chin-Chi said silently, staring at the hand on the red panda's head. He wanted to slap it away, but he was a little hesitant. After all, now that he lives in Gookie's house, uses Gookie's house, and eats in Gookie's house, he is too embarrassed to fall out with him casually. "Just touch him, just once. It's been 10 seconds, why haven't you let go of my little panda yet?" Chin-Chi was caught in a dilemma. On the side, the fat man scratched his head. "How does it feel? He has become a backdrop again. Etc. Why did you say again?" "Fat man, I want to eat fruit." Chin-Chi suddenly spoke, still staring at the unsightly hand. "Oh, okay, I'll go get it." The fat man immediately put aside the strange feeling that had just arisen in his heart and responded with a smile on his face. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 346. After the waves of light and darkness disappeared, the dark blue environment in front of Sotingyu gradually became clearer. But the next second, Sotingyu's eyes widened. She fell into the sea. "Giloo, Giloo." Sotingyu just opened her mouth slightly, and sea water poured in. She quickly covered her mouth, took out an underwater tent from the inventory, wriggled her body like a dog, and got inside the tent. The tent only blocked out the sea water. After Sutinyu got in smoothly, he lay sprawled inside and gasped for air. Holy shit, after a few seconds of pause, Sutinyu couldn't help but squirt. Grandma is a bear. From the dungeon name alone, it can be seen that this round of dungeons must be related to the sea, so Sutinyu exchanged a lot of game items for dealing with entering the sea. But Sutinyu never expected that he would fall directly into the sea at the beginning, without giving anyone a chance to react. Just a little bit away, it's a box start. The panel pops up, and the copy information is refreshed on it. Sutinyu was too lazy to get up, so he just lay there and checked. Copy, 20,000 leagues under the sea. Background, this is a planet with 98.7% ocean area and the remaining 1.3% land area at the beginning of the sky and the sea. In ancient times, under the unique natural environment of high sky and wide sea, Poseidon was born, and it gave birth to countless unique creatures, marine creatures, and they have created countless splendid marine civilizations. Number of players, 30. Main mission, looking for the Mermaid Kingdom, to be refreshed. Difficulty, 8 stars. Duration, unlimited. The dungeon can be ended if all players in the dungeon are eliminated or if one player completes all main quests. Pass-through rewards, after clearing the level, you can get a certain amount of game coins, a probability of getting game props and lottery opportunities, and a probability of getting free attribute points. Punishment for failure, 5,000 game coins and 10,000 experience points will be deducted, and 3 to 10 attribute points will be randomly weakened. Sutinyu's eyes widened again. This career copy is a bit interesting. The start of the main mission is no longer fully informed, but has become a staged mission. Only when the current mission is completed will the next mission be refreshed. The difficulty level is 8 stars, which is the highest star dungeon Sutinyu has encountered so far, and there is no time limit on the duration of the dungeon. The final punishment is different from the previous dungeon, which is the deduction of game currency at most. This round of professional dungeons has 2 more penalties. It seems that it is not easy to enter a professional dungeon. Sutinyu sat up and sighed. The background of this round of dungeons directly gives the background of the entire world. Is it possible that players are still required to run around the world and complete tasks? The background of the dungeon is also different from the dungeons Sutinyu has experienced in the past. Let's go find that thing first, the Mermaid Kingdom. By the way, this round of dungeons has mermaids. Could it be a dungeon with the attributes of a Western fantasy fairy tale? Sutinyu took out various game items from the inventory while staring at the panel. Content muttered. In front of Sutinyu, from left to right, were a palm-sized white conch, 2 blue beads, 1 large and 1 small, and a brown belt. The conch is naturally the token of this round of dungeon. After entering the dungeon, it is best to carry the token with you. The 2 beads are water-avoiding beads and underwater-breathing beads. One is to help the shooting fish isolate the sea water on the body surface, and the other is to allow the shooting fish to breathe freely in the sea. The function of the waterproof beads lasts for 2 hours and cools down for 6 hours. Sutinyu prepared 20 beads. The functional duration of underwater breathing beads is 6 hours and the cooling time is 20 hours. Sutinyu prepared 10 of them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 347. The 2 beads were both ornaments. Sutinyu put them into the decorative column, and as long as he had a thought, they would take effect instantly. Well, put 1 more of the 2 kinds of beads, it will be easier to change. Looking at the background of this round of copies, Sutingyu could imagine that she would spend most of her time in the sea. In order to avoid the bead's function duration being up and her being unable to replace it in time due to delays, Sutingyu placed an extra bead of both kinds, just in case. It's time for the final belt. This is not an ordinary belt, but an underwater booster, which not only generates thrust, but also allows the user to freely control the direction of swimming in the water. Sutingyu felt that he was really too foresight. Omega asterisk, great. Sutingyu checked it again and took out a necklace. It's said to be a necklace, but in fact it's just a small transparent waterproof bag hanging at the end, just big enough to hold the conches. Sutingyu tried it on his neck and found that the conch was not very heavy and felt okay. This was also specially redeemed by Sutingyu. It had no special function, just wearing a conch. Sutingyu fell into the sea just now, but the clothes on his body were not wet and were still dry and tidy now. This was Sutingyu's temporary waterproof clothing, replacing the previous sports clothing. If Sutingyu hadn't made a fortune recently, there really wouldn't be so many game coins for her to exchange for various game items. After being fully armed, Sutingyu walked out of the tent. With the waterproof suit and 2 beads, she didn't feel any discomfort. Apart from her body floating, she felt as relaxed and carefree as if she were on land. Sutingyu first got used to how to control the belt nearby. After getting familiar with it, he put the tent back into the inventory. At this time, Sutingyu had the time to appreciate the magnificent ocean world in front of him. Above the head, rays of sunlight were reflected from the sea surface that was unknown how far away, and the sea water showed a clear blue. In the distance, a dense school of fish occasionally swims by, like flying colorful ribbons, which is beautiful and moving. And below the feet, the seabed, which is about a few hundred meters away, is even more colorful at a glance. Corals of strange shapes and colors stretch for thousands of meters, as if there is no end in sight. The ground on the seabed is also covered with finely crushed sand and stones and various shells. Sutingyu opened her mouth slightly in surprise. Wow, so beautiful. At this time, a thick black shadow suddenly appeared in front of Sutingyu. As time went by, the black shadow that was originally the size of a fist rapidly expanded and became larger. After Sutingyu glanced at it, he hurried downstream. Wow, killer whale. Sutingyu swam to the coral jungle on the seabed and looked up at the big guy above. The killer whale opened its mouth, and sea water poured into its mouth. It swallowed all the fish, big and small, from many schools of fish. The small fish here are too small to fit between the teeth. No, I want to change places. Sutingyu rubbed his ears and suspected that he was hearing something. He actually felt that the killer whale was speaking. But in fact, the killer whale is talking. This must be a copy of a fairy tale. The fish can even talk. After the killer whales left, Sutingyu was about to leave the coral jungle when a few quiet whispers came from his ears. Why is it missing at the door of my house? Why is it missing? It's all black. I found the door. There seems to be something blocking the door. Come on, help me push it open. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-K. Chapter 348. Sutingyu. Sutingyu suddenly felt something pushing under the sole of her shoe. She raised her foot and brought out a big crab. Hey, why am I floating? The big crab holding the sole of Sutingyu's shoe floated out dizzy, its body swaying from side to side. And where Sutingyu originally stepped, a hole appeared. Inside, there was a little crab digging at the sand and gravel, slowly revealing half of its body. When it looked up, it screamed, Poseidon! There is something. Monster! This scream really confused Sutingyu. At this time, the big crab finally let go of its pincers holding the sole of Sutingyu's shoe. It floated to the ground and walked to the little crab. What do you mean? You have to be calm, do you understand? You, you have the ability to look up. I'll just take a look and see if there's anything else. The big crab said in a disdainful tone, raised his head and glanced evilly, and then, I am the Poseidon. There are monsters. Suting looked at the two crabs and crawled back into the hole. He immediately bent down and quickly and accurately caught the large and small crabs. Help! O Poseidon! Help! The two crabs struggled wildly and tried to catch the Sutinyu with its pliers. The latter, with his quick eyes and quick hands, threw the two crabs onto the coral reef. Before the crabs could react and try to escape, he held down their backs with 2 fingers. Do you know where the mermaid kingdom is? Sutinyu sat on a stone, holding her chin and watching 2 crabs eating bread. The little crab took a bite of the bread and his eyes shrank and squinted. You want to go to the mermaid? Sutinyu nodded, yes. It's quite far away. You can't reach it even if you walk for more than 10 days. The big crab stepped on the bread to prevent it from floating away. He crushed a small piece of bread with his pliers and stuffed it into his mouth. Sutinyu looked at the 8 short legs of the crab and blinked his big eyes, then please point me in the direction. Just go this way. The little crab wandered around the coral reef and finally pointed in one direction. If you keep walking along the red coral here, you will find the mermaid kingdom. The big crab touched its bulging belly with its pincers. However, it seems that outsiders are not allowed to enter the mermaid side. Okay, thank you. Then Sutinyu took out 2 more pieces of bread and threw them to the 2 crabs. Hey, no. You're welcome, the little crab circled excitedly. Have a smooth journey. Sutinyu moved in the direction given by the 2 crabs, increased the thrust of his belt, and moved forward. After an unknown amount of time, Sutinyu vaguely felt that the light in the sea seemed to be weakening. After climbing over a small sea ridge on the seabed, a wide basin came into view. Oblate spherical buildings made of gray-white stone are rooted everywhere, perfectly integrated with the naturally formed rock walls and caves. In the center, there is a majestic and gorgeous castle, with white and neat shell roads paved everywhere. Various sparkling pearls, gems, and colorful corals adorn it. And in these buildings, there are still some figures with human bodies and fish tails coming in and out. Sutinyu took a few steps forward, but was forced to stop. A nearly transparent light shield enveloped the entire mermaid kingdom. And Sutinyu was blocked by this. Just when Sutinyu was thinking about whether to break the light barrier, the conch on his chest suddenly glowed white. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 349. Not far from the mermaid kingdom, other players who came from all directions also had their conchs glowing abnormally. Hey, why is the conch glowing? What's going on? Is it possible that in addition to being a dungeon token, this conch has other functions in the dungeon? Isn't this thing going to explode? At the same time, Mermaid Kingdom, inside the palace. In a stone room with pictographic paintings carved on the 4 stone walls, an old merman with a long beard was shocked to see a colorful conch emitting a faint white light in front of him. Suddenly, the white light flashed. His eyes were shocked and he raised his hands excitedly. Come on. Here we go. The legendary warriors are here. Come here, the old man shouted toward the door, and immediately 2 young male mermaids wearing soft armor and holding tridents swam in. Elder, what do you want to tell me? Quick. Order all the guards to go out and look for the legendary brave men. They are already here. The mermaid kingdom can be saved. The old man looked excited. The 2 guarding mermaids looked at each other in surprise and nodded, yes. The old man fish warned, remember, every brave man will carry a white conch similar to a purifying conch. Okay, elder, we've written it down. Sutinyu rubbed his eyes and took another look at the conch. Still glowing. Not an illusion? Hey, if it stays on, it can be used as a light bulb. At this time, the panel pops up, showing that the main task has been refreshed. Main mission, entering the kingdom of mermaids, to be refreshed. You want to go in? How do you go in? Sutingyu muttered. Regarding the main mission at this stage, Sutingyu was not surprised. We have found a place. If we don't go in and walk around twice, will we just turn around and leave? However, other than puncturing the mask, is there any other way to get in? It's impossible for a mermaid to swim out and respectfully invite you in, right? Sutingyu thought that although she was a kind, lovely and invincible little fairy, she had always been very self-effacing and not narcissistic. She really thought that a mermaid would come out to greet her. Over there. There's something going on there. Sutingyu didn't pay attention. At this time, he suddenly saw several mermaids coming out of the light mask, and they seemed to have discovered him. Sure, Sutingyu quickly turned around and looked around, trying to find a place to hide. This is the bottom of the sea. The sudden appearance of a non-fish human here must have aroused the xenophobia of these mermaids. But it's too late. Those mermaids swam very fast and were approaching in the blink of an eye. The 5 male mermaids were wearing soft armor and holding tridents, looking menacing. Sutingyu quietly took out a 10-centimeter meteor rod and held it in the palm of his left hand. His was discovered. Fight or not? Sutingyu was struggling, and the leading mermaid glanced around, and looked slightly startled when he saw the conch on the former's chest. After checking it several times to confirm that it was correct, the leader of the mermaids showed joy on his face, put down his trident, and bowed to Sutingyu. Dear Lord Brave, all mermaids in the mermaid kingdom welcome you. When Sutingyu heard this, his eyes became confused. Ah! Touching porcelain? But when the other mermaids learned that this uninvited guest was a brave man, they all dropped their guard and bowed together to salute. Dear Lord Brave, all mermaids in the mermaid kingdom welcome you. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 350. Sutingyu really wanted to ask, did you recognize the wrong fish? No, did you recognize the wrong person? But looking at the fiery and respectful eyes of these mermaids, Sutingyu couldn't bear to say it. It didn't matter whether they would be disappointed if their expectations were extinguished. The main reason was that Sutingyu was worried that he would be forced to bully the majority with a small number, and then be forced to kill 5. However, Sutingyu gradually realized that the eyes of these mermaids seemed to be staring at the conch on her chest, so Sutingyu picked up the conch and said, "Why do you keep staring at this? Your Majesty, you are laughing. We are just confirming your identity to prevent any fish from pretending to be a brave man and damaging your reputation," the mermaid replied respectfully. Sutingyu blinked his big eyes and gradually came back to his senses. It turns out that conch has this effect. Ahem, as far as I know, I'm not the only brave person to come. Have you found any other brave people? Sutingyu used the title of brave person without any guilt. Our team has only found you for the time being. When the mermaids heard that there might be a brave man coming, their eyes became even more intense. Sir Brave, we are here to welcome you on the orders of the mermaid elders. Please be kind to the brave and come to our mermaid kingdom as a guest. Sutingyu nodded, okay, you guys can lead the way. Master Brave, please. This time, when faced with the light shield blocking the way, the mermaid spoke first. Master Brave, please take out your brave token and touch the protective shield, so that you can enter. Okay, Sutingyu responded, but she murmured in her heart, is it so magical? When Sutingyu took out the conch and touched the light shield, ripples appeared from the center of the contact area, as if something was opening its eyes and looking at Sutingyu. This time, when Sutingyu reached out to touch the light mask, he passed through it easily. After successfully entering the light shield, Sotingu was keenly aware that these mermaids seemed to have breathed a sigh of relief, as if they were surviving a disaster. Sotingu raised a question mark in her heart. How do you feel? These mermaids seem to be resisting going out. But in order to meet some brave man, he stepped out of the circle of light. When Sotingu entered the mermaid kingdom, the main line of the panel refreshed again. Main mission: become a brave man in the mermaid kingdom, to be refreshed. When seeing the refreshed main mission, Sotingu raised his eyebrows slightly. What kind of hero do you really want to be? This is a phased task, and there is no way to get it done in one step. Sotingu can only take it one step at a time. The mermaid guards took Sotingu to the mermaid palace. On the way, Sotingu also saw a lot of mermaids, including men and women, old and young. In addition to the difference in appearance, there was another point: the colors of their tails were different. They are not the same, and some of the scales are of other colors. The mermaids they met also looked surprised when they saw Sotingu. Mom, what kind of fish is this? This isn't a fish, she doesn't have a fish tail. With 2 legs, this can't be a human race, right? Human race? How could the human race come to the bottom of the sea? The surrounding mermaids looked at Sotingu curiously and warily, as if they had seen some rare species, staring intently and mumbling a lot. Huh? There seems to be a human race over there. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 351. In front of the mermaid palace. The 5 players looked at each other. Sotingu sighed in his heart, finally meeting someone of the same species as himself. However, there are 30 players in this round of dungeons, and Sotingu has only met 4 of them now. Similarly, other players are also wearing various game items for deep-sea diving. Sotingu suddenly thought, if the players all start directly in the sea, and some people don't have the game items to prepare for diving, then, there are already unlucky players who start the game with bad luck, right? My dear heroes, please, the mermaid made a please come in gesture towards the entrance of the palace. Sotingu's thoughts were interrupted and she entered the palace with other players. This time, Sotingu was a little smarter and deliberately stayed away from other players to prevent them from having the opportunity to check his game nickname. Sotingu's appearance was very deceptive. His big wet eyes looked left and right, as if he was very insecure, which immediately made other players take off most of their guard. After all, the players who can enter the professional dungeon are not only strong players, but also weak players who are lucky enough to pick up a token. Brave adults, please wait here for a moment. Her Majesty the Queen will come to receive you in person. The mermaid guard took the players to a side hall, gave a brief explanation, and then exited. Then, a group of elegant female mermaids held jade plates in their hands and placed them on the table. The leading female mermaid bowed slightly towards the players. Dear brave men, this is a special delicacy of our mermaid kingdom. Please enjoy it, all brave men. Okay, thanks for the hospitality, a player responded. After the group of female mermaids retreated, Sotingu glanced at the delicacies brought by the mermaids, including seaweed, kelp, and some unnamed deep-sea fish. These fish had no life left, and the fish belly there is a bone knife stuck on it and fixed on the jade plate. It's all raw food, that's right. Where can there be fire in the sea? None of the players who had just entered the dungeon had any desire to eat. Moreover, some players were wearing hoods similar to diving suits, with their entire heads wrapped tightly. There are only a few players left here, and the atmosphere is awkward and speechless. But after a while, the awkward atmosphere was broken. Because, there are new players brought by the mermaid guards. Gradually, 25 players gathered in the side hall. After waiting for a long time, no new players were finally seen. Sotingu secretly guessed that the other 5 players were probably in danger. My dear brave men, I've been waiting for a long time. Your Majesty the Queen has invited you after a while, Sutingya quietly changed the third waterproof bead and the first underwater breathing bead. The mermaid guard appeared again. This time, there was no bringing a new player figure, instead conveying a command. In this way, the players were taken to a palace. On the steps in front, on a throne carved from colorful ice crystals, a female mermaid wearing a white veil sat, wearing a graceful crown and holding a scepter. The overall momentum is not angry and powerful. On the right side under the steps, there is an old male mermaid floating, looking at the players with a smile. On the aqua blue ice crystal floor tiles in the center of the hall, 8 mature and delicate-looking mermaids were waiting on both sides, both male and female, looking at the players with somewhat curious expressions. Thank you all the brave men for coming to the Mermaid Kingdom. This is the Mermaid Kingdom's honor. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 352. From the throne, the Mermaid Queen's majestic yet friendly voice came. Your Majesty the Queen, the Mermaid Kingdom has gone to such great lengths to find us. It must be that they have encountered some problem and we need to come forward to solve it, right? A player said serious nonsense based on the only information. Hearing this, Sutingya blinked his big eyes. Indeed, the mermaid's reaction was very strange. Before Mingming came, Sutingya learned from the 2 crabs that mermaids were very resistant to outsiders. But now, they are very enthusiastic about letting these so-called braves enter the Mermaid Kingdom. They either blindly worship them or they must ask for something. The Mermaid Queen glanced at the older mermaid at the bottom of the steps. Great Elder, come and tell the brave men about the situation. As ordered, the Mermaid Elder bowed in the direction of the Mermaid Queen, then turned to look at the players. The thing is like this. At the beginning of the establishment of the Mermaid Kingdom, the first-generation Mermaid Queen was lucky enough to see the Supreme Poseidon with her own eyes. She was also given a protective magic circle and a colorful conch to activate and maintain the magic circle. The colorful conch is called the purifying conch. It can not only purify the surrounding water, but also purify the darkness in the hearts of living beings. The mermaids protected by the purifying conch began to establish a harmonious and peaceful mermaid kingdom. The light mask outside the mermaid kingdom is a protective shield condensed by the purifying conch. It removes impurities from the sea water outside to achieve a purification effect, and then flows into the mermaid kingdom. In addition, the protective shield can also identify the breath of the mermaid. Non-mermaid creatures cannot enter under normal circumstances. But just 200 years ago, a naughty mermaid princess stole the purifying conch and took it out of the mermaid kingdom. After the mermaids captured the mermaid princess, they found that the most important orb on the purifying conch was missing. The purifying conch that has lost its orb will have its purifying effect weakened day by day. It is estimated that in 10 years, the protective shield will completely disappear. Before the mermaid purified the conch, she was still swimming in the ocean. Even if the protective shield disappeared one day, it wouldn't have much impact, right? Some players wondered. Alas, this brave man, you don't know. In recent hundreds of years, the human race on the land islands has been rapidly developing industry and technology, and a large amount of sewage and garbage have been discharged into the ocean. When technology was developed, those who once regarded it as the human race, whose ocean is a restricted area, can actually go to the sky and enter the sea, hunting marine life wantonly. The Great Mermaid Elder said with a sad face. At this time, the faces of the mermaids on both sides also showed angry expressions, as if they hated the human race deeply. Seeing this, all the players became more and more embarrassed. This. Although they are not the indigenous humans in this round of dungeons, in their real world, incidents of ocean pollution and wanton killing of animals are exposed every now and then. Of course, these have nothing to do with the brave man. The Mermaid Elder noticed that something was wrong with the players' faces, and quickly explained, according to the information handed down from the ancient murals, the brave men all like to take the form of human race for convenience. Come into the world. A player took the steps handed over by the Great Mermaid Elder and continued talking, with an expression full of indignation. Ahem, it's true. If it weren't for this reason, I wouldn't want to become a human race. Sutinyu secretly stood in the corner, observing the changes in the expressions of everyone and the merman. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 353. What Sutinyu was most curious about was, of course, the mermaid queen who was sitting high on the throne. She was silent now and had a deep and reserved expression. She was watching the discussions between the people and guests below her indifferently, as if she were watching a play. Sutinyu tilted his head. All I can say is that she deserves to be the mermaid queen. Muta expression. After the interlude, the Great Mermaid Elder continued to tell the rest of the story. During the 200 years since the orb was lost, the Mermaid Kingdom also sent people out many times to search for the orb, but unfortunately, nothing was found. As ocean pollution worsens, if mermaids leave the Mermaid Kingdom too far, their bodies will gradually become polluted, causing various diseases and even sudden death. Now, no mermaid is willing to stay outside for a long time, and sending mermaid guards out to look for players this time is just an exception. So, you want to ask us to help find the orb? The Great Mermaid Elder nodded, yes. I beg you brave men to take action and save the Mermaid Kingdom. Other mermaids also requested in unison. Whether it was to refresh the main quest or to better explore the dungeon, all the players present agreed to the mermaid's request. Main mission, looking for the heart of the brave, to be refreshed. After agreeing, the players' panels were refreshed with the main tasks for the next stage. The heart of a brave man? Sutinyu put a question mark in his mind. Moreover, didn't they agree to the mermaid's request to find the lost orb? Why is it that what is refreshed on the panel is the heart of a brave man? Great Elder, you take all the brave men to Poseidon Temple, and I will take full responsibility for the rest of the matter. At this time, the Mermaid Queen stood up, said a few words to the Great Elder Mermaid, then nodded to the players, and then he slowly left the hall. After the Queen left, the 8 mermaids on both sides also left. The only remaining Mermaid Elder was left at the scene. He explained with a kind smile, "Dear heroes, your majesty and the 8 tribe leaders are busy with daily affairs, and they have just taken time out of their busy schedules to come here. Please invite me. Don't be offended." Of course not. Players don't want to cause trouble, so naturally they won't show off their face over such a trivial matter. My dear heroes, please follow me. The players followed the Mermaid Elder and turned left and right in the palace. After a while, they came to the door of the palace guarded by mermaid guards. The Great Mermaid Elder took out a key made from the bones of an unknown species from his body and inserted it into the door lock. After opening it, the mermaid guards on both sides, one on the left and one on the right, worked together to push open the palace door. Brave men, please come in. The Mermaid Elder did not rush into the hall, but turned sideways and made an invite gesture. Seeing this, the players stepped into the palace first. After Sutinyu came in, like other players, he looked around at the environment in the palace. This hall is smaller than the hall where I just met the Mermaid Queen. The 4 stone walls inside the hall are carved with various Impressionist-style portraits, and in the center of the open space, stands a majestic statue. Like a statue of a god descending to earth with a human body and a fish tail, holding a trident. He is our great Poseidon. After the Mermaid Elder came in, he looked at the statue with great reverence, and even knelt down in front of the statue and kowtowed devoutly. Seeing this, Sutinyu's eyes fell on the statue of Poseidon. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 354. He has a fish-tail body, a dragon-like horn on his forehead, and long hair as wild and unruly as seaweed hanging behind his back. His strong and plump muscles exude an unparalleled sense of power. In every arc he holds a symbol of identity in his right hand. The Poseidon trident is powerful and domineering. Behind Poseidon, there is a huge dragon entwined. His eyes are unruly, but in front of Poseidon, he lowers his posture and vaguely respects Poseidon. After the mermaid elder knelt down and worshipped, he stood up. He pointed at the mural and explained the content carved on it. Poseidon, the great god in charge of the ocean, is also the ancestor of all creatures in the ocean, and is worshipped and believed by all creatures in the ocean. Whenever faced with great danger, the sea god will send brave men to the world to save all living beings in the ocean. For the brave men who come to this world, this is a training to find the brave heart. In the end, only a brave man with a brave heart can completely solve the crisis and save all life in the ocean. Listening to the mermaid great elder's story, Sutinyu became more and more curious about what the heart of the brave actually represented. But this kind of self-exposure is not a problem for the brave, nor can it be asked directly. Sutinyu could only observe the murals, hoping to find some clues. The great mermaid elder was explaining the meaning of each mural graphic. When his finger pointed at a large circle composed of 8 balls of different colors, he smiled. This, all the brave men should know. You can guess it? Confused players, thank you, no. What is engraved on it are the 8 outstanding qualities that represent the heart of a brave man: bravery, wisdom, justice, integrity, friendliness, humility, compassion, and unyielding. The great elder of the mermaid stretched out his hand and pointed at the character represented each time he mentioned a quality. Different colored round balls. Sutinyu's eyes flashed with surprise, and he looked at the 8 balls carefully. Brave red. Wisdom purple. Justice yellow. Integrity green. Friendly pink. Humility orange. Mercy blue. Unyielding gold. Maybe the player's eyes stayed on it for too long, and the mermaid elder asked, "Dear heroes, do you have any questions?" So they represent the heart of the brave. No wonder, it feels a bit familiar, haha. A keen player immediately spoke in a covert manner. And this sound also successfully called back the lingering gazes of other players. Although many of the players do not know each other, they are now in the land of mermaids, wearing the tiger skin of a brave man. If one person is slightly careless and his identity is revealed, it is likely to affect everyone. As for the 8 qualities of a brave heart, in theory, a true brave should know this and would never be too surprised by it. Every brave man, you all hold a conch token in your hand. When the conch releases the light of the corresponding color, it means that you have been recognized as an excellent quality. When the conch releases the light of the color, it means that you have the heart of a hero. The great mermaid elder pointed at the conch token hanging on a player's waist and stroked his beard with his hand. When you find the orb, I have to trouble the brave man with a brave heart to blow the conch token and give blessings to the mermaid kingdom. Hearing this, Sutinyu raised his eyebrows slightly. Why is it that the great elder mermaid must be sure that in the process of searching for the orb, someone will get the heart of the brave? Of course, Sutinyu felt that as long as she was around, the brave man's heart would be in good hands. From what the great mermaid elder said, there have been brave men before this. Is it possible that every time, a brave man gets the heart of a brave man?